evening, everyone. If you could take your seats, we're about to get started. You know, it is so wonderful to be here this evening to wish Bob Parisi well on his 90th birthday. And, you know, Bob is a patriotic fellow. So, of course, we start with the presentation of colors. Can someone at the bar turn the music off, please? Laureen, can you turn the music off, please? Thank you. Bob is a patriotic guy, so he would want to start with patriotic things. And the presentation of colors is where we start. We have the presentation of colors offered by the United States Marine Corps. If you could please stand.
Color guard, attend. Huh! Carry colors. Ready, cut.
And I would call on Lieutenant Colonel Rosemary DeAngelis to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Rosemary. Thank you, Marine Corps. Monsignor Gary Simeone, a longtime native of Wallingford, who he's also celebrating something this week. He's celebrating the 50th anniversary of his ordination, and we're so very honored to have you here,
Thank you.
Monsignor, to give us the blessing this evening.
Sure. Let us pray. Lord our God, we give you thanks for the many blessings that you give to us, especially that we are gathered here this night to honor a great citizen and patriot, Bob Parisi. May your fullest blessings come upon us as we journey forward, your guidance and your love. We ask you to bless the food that we're about to partake in the name of Jesus, your Son, who lives and reigns forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Monsignor. Wallingford being Wallingford, our national anthem is going to be sung by May McDonald. If you go to Our Lady of Fatima Church, you've heard May sing. Now, the very interesting thing in this life is that May McDonald is the granddaughter of the late state representative Mary Fritz. And those of you who have been around politics in Wallingford for a while will remember that one of the real bridge relationships in Wallingford was that of Mary Fritz and Bob Parisi. They worked together, Democrat and Republican, on many things. So very appropriate that May is gracing us and singing the national anthem in Bob's honor.
Present arms.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed as the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight
Thank you, Marie. If we could sit down for just a second, I'd like to invite State Representative Mary Mashinsky up, that Mary has a proclamation from our state legislature on behalf of the Wallingford delegation. Sure, that's a lot.
This is an official citation from myself, Representative Liz Linehan, Representative Craig Fishbein, and Senator Paul Cicarella, who is in his daughter's tournament. Otherwise, he would be here with me. But he has to support his kid. Be it hereby known to all that the Connecticut General Assembly offers its sincerest congratulations to Robert F. Parisi in recognition of dedicating over 36 years of distinguished service to the town of Wallingford, the town council, including 18 years as its chairman, shaping the community with wisdom, integrity, and leadership. His steadfast commitment to public service and deep-rooted love for Wallingford have left a lasting impact on generations of residents. Mr. Parisi has exemplified civic pride and responsibility, serving not only with vision but with humor and humility. And on this occasion of his 90th birthday, we joyfully celebrate a life devoted to bettering the place we all call home. We honor Robert F. Parisi with sincere gratitude and admiration for his legacy of service and leadership. The entire membership extends its very best wishes on this memorable occasion and expresses the hope for continued success. Signed this 12th day of June 2025 at the State Capitol in Hartford by Martin Looney, President Pro Tempore of the Senate, Matt Ritter, Speaker of the House, and Stephanie Thomas, Secretary of the State. Congratulations for a life well served, Bob Parisi.
Thank you so much, Mary. Bob has the full support of every Democrat, every Republican, every independent. Everybody loves Bob. Well, in a couple minutes, we'll see how much people love Bob. As you know, it's been billed as toast or roast. So we're going to pause now if you'd like to refresh your hors d'oeuvres from the hors d'oeuvre table, if you want to get another drink from the bar. And our friends from the Elks will start serving dinner, and then we'll take up our toast or roast program in a couple minutes. So make yourself at home. You know, one of the nice things about Bob Parisi is he has many friends, and it was very hard to pick several, not dozens, to speak about him this evening on his 90th birthday. We called it, the initial idea was a roast. The idea of a roast I was a little worried about. That isn't what I'm planning on doing. But you'll see what each of the speakers has to say about Bob and whether they're still friends by the end of the evening. So our first speaker is a very long-time friend and associate of Bob, former town councilman John Sullivan. He's been star of radio and television, and now tonight he headlines the Elks Club. John.
Thank you very much. I look around the room and this looks like a satellite office of the Regency House. Stop it! This is supposed to be a good time. Laugh for crying out loud. Gentlemen, there's a Depend Spencer that's been installed in the men's room. If you have a catheter, stay in your seat. Hey, look. The year was 1935. Franklin Roosevelt was president. The Social Security and National Labor Relation Acts were signed into law. The Hoover Dam was dedicated. Very important now. The first canned beer was sold in Richmond, Virginia. Shortly after the same year, Alcoholics Anonymous was formed. And locally in Wallingford on June 12th, Robert Francis Parisi was born. That's right. Just a side note, Bill Dickinson was serving his 5th term at that time. You know, Bob, you and I have known each other for a long time, about 30 years now. And I remember back in the late 1990s, you and Joan told me about a house that was going to be up for sale on Dutton Street. And I got in on it before it went on the market. And I can't thank you enough, because for 25 years, we have lived on Dutton Street, and I love living in that area. Thank you, guys. I really mean that. You know, Bob, did you ever think you'd hit 90?
No.
No, well, you're not alone. A few others didn't think so either. That includes your cardiologist, your primary care physician, the blood drawer at Quest, your paper boy who took the over-under at 85, as well as a waitress and many other waitresses at Michael's, Brothers, Main Street USA, Baldy's Bar. Remember that? So, you know, Bob, I don't want to say you're old at this point, but Jerry Farrell Jr. wants to add you as an exhibit to the Wallingford Historic Preservation Trust. You know, Bob, you and I go back so long that our families were very close.
Yeah.
And I think to this day we're still very close. My son Ryan started building computers at 14 years old, as you recall. And he turns 40 this year, by the way, long time ago. So I was telling Bob, Ryan built me a computer. And he said, I want him to build me one. I had Ryan get on the phone with Bob. And Bob had no problem giving Ryan his credit card number. And Ryan ordered all the parts. Put the computer together. Got it to Bob. And Bob was off and running. Thanks to Joni, too, who was really behind Bob's success with the computer. Because before that, many of you may recall, Bob used like a notepad. He called it his, what would you call that? Everything was on a pad. Nothing was on an iPhone or anything like that.
And I never missed anything.
You never missed anything. That's true. That's true. You never did. But you stepped up and you said, have Ryan build me one. I know you took a liking to Ryan, and he liked you too. But there was a minor downside to doing anything for Bob. And that was, he expected you to support that product for the rest of your life. You know, Ryan moved on to Xavier High School, and I got a call from the principal saying, Mr. Sullivan, we got a problem. Ryan's being called out of class by this guy named Parisi. Because he can't save a file, or he can't do this, or he can't do that. It took like 3 years before Bob finally understood that spam isn't assaulted meat. So that was a long time ago. Bob, I'm going to give you a quick update right now. Ryan is the Director of Analytics and Engineering for Facebook Meta. And he's done very well for himself. But he did send a message with me tonight. And that is, the service contract is over. Don't call him. And now another family member, Riley Sullivan. Now Bob and I, Joan, and my wife Sue, we've gone on vacation a few times together. and we went up to Boston. And we had a great time. Riley was about 2 years old. And we stayed at a couple of hotels. One was the Parker House, which was a fun trip. You know, when we were on the council, we nicknamed Bob the Juice. Why? Because as the chairman, he had the juice. And he would always go, juice on, juice off. So, we only had a few contentious issues. I was a Democrat, Bob was a Republican. But I will say this, Bob always looked out for me on the council. We talked offline all the time. Never steered me wrong. Never steered me wrong. That's why I love Bob Parisi. But when we had some contentious issues where we disagreed, and the Republicans, who held the majority throughout my 8 years on the council, Bob had such a humorous side about him. After the vote was in and Bob got his way, he'd look down at me and he'd go, juice on. And all I could do was laugh. I only remember one disagreement with Bob. And he was angry because he lost the vote that night. But you know, it was only about 30 minutes into a dinner after the council meeting at Catano's that we repaired the friendship quickly. Because politics is politics, but friendship is forever. And my friendship with Bob, even though we may disagree, is forever. There was one time, a couple of years ago, Joni said to me, John, Bob's up in Meriden in a rehab center. Can you go see him? I said, of course. I didn't know he was there. So I went to see Bob. And I didn't have to even ask the room number because I just heard the bitching from basically a parking lot. So I go in his room, and Bob had I think he was sharing a room, but the guy in the room had enough and said, get me the hell out of here. And there's Bob, laying in the bed, looking like baby Huey. He had underwear on, no shirt, and he was laying on the sheet. I said, good God, man, can you cover up? He said, I want to get the hell out of here. And I said, you know, this isn't a sentence. This is a place for you to get better and get out. And of course, Joan was off in France having a good time. Bob was in you know, she earned it. She deserved it. Matter of fact, I recall the doctor saying he got a phone call from Bob's wife and asking if he could sign off on keeping him there another week or two. Because she hadn't seen the Seine yet, and she wanted to get out there to see the Seine in France. Bob, I think you know how much we love you. And to see you here at 90 years old is just unbelievable. I mean, I lost my parents in their 80s. And you know, we don't know what you know, Father Gary will tell us there's a heaven. I believe that. But we're all afraid of what lies after this life. So we need to make do with what we have right now and enjoy this life. And I think you've enjoyed this life pretty darn good. Going back on Bob's political career, if I may, for just a moment, he's been in politics so long, his first campaign was done on smoke signals. He started off as a sidewalk inspector. Sidewalk inspector. Wallingford didn't have any sidewalks at the time. Bob was a sidewalk inspector.
Political job.
It was a political job. And boy, don't we know about those. Anyway, Bob burst into Mayor Bertini's office at the time and said, I got a problem. Mayor Bertini said, what's going on? Bob said, I found people defacing sidewalks. Mayor Bertini said, we need to look into this. Turns out it was 3 girls playing hopscotch. Bob wanted them incarcerated. Bevan said, no way, Bob. We're not going to incarcerate these girls. That's how serious Bob took his job. And when Bob was chair, and I did enjoy Bob as the chair. Again, we were friends, and Bob and I could talk. It wasn't Republican against Democrat. It was friends. And we knew that when it came time to vote, yeah, sure, it might be Democrat, Republican, but I can tell you what, I voted with the Republicans many times because the solutions made sense, okay? It's not about just voting because you're a member of a certain party. It's voting for what's right for the town of Wallingford. And Bob was always doing his best to vote what was right for Wallingford. Bob, you know, I'm chairman now of the Park and Rec Commission. Political appointments, so who the hell knows how long that's going to last.
Hey, John.
Yeah. Juice on, juice off. I get it. Let me get my phone over here. I get it. Oh my God. So good to be here with you. So, as chairman of the Park and Rec Commission, what I wanted to do, Bob, was name a park after you. Hold on. Hello? It's Kenny Michaels, director of Park and Rec. Kenny, yeah.
Good man.
Yeah, I told him. Yeah, it's not happening. Okay. Thanks, Kenny. Bob, as chairman of the Park and Rec Commission, I'd like to name a bench after you.
He's already got that.
Excuse me. Hello. Hey, Kenny. How are you doing? Bench is out too, huh? Jesus Christ, I'm sitting here. Excuse me, Father. I'm sitting here at the Elks Club, and you kind of put me on the spot. Stick to the plan. Okay, I'll stick to the plan. See ya. Bastard. Sorry, the bench is out. It's not going to happen either. But, Bob, where's my stuff? I got this. I had something else here, Bob, but I don't seem to. I thought I had it. Oh well. Anyway, Bob, I want to sing you happy birthday because that's about all we can afford to do with the budget the way it is. So I'm going to ask everyone to sing along with me to Bob. Will you do that? All right. You ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bob. Happy birthday to you. And now for the big finish. That's about all we had the funds for, Bob. But there is one other thing. I have this beautiful Park and Rec trophy I'd like to give you. Now, it may seem cheap, and it is, but consider it a symbol of our love for you on this your 90th birthday. All right, here you go.
Thanks, John. You didn't engrave it.
Sorry, Bob. Oh, excuse me. Hey, Kenny. Take the cup back. No, we did not do that. Okay. Goodbye. All right. Now it's time to get to the least funny people. Fasano, you gonna be funny? Just talk about some of the legislature you tried to pass. All right. A dear friend, and he's become a dear friend over the last couple of years. A guy who is generous to a fault. And someone I've really grown to like and respect very much, as well as his wonderful family. And that's my friend, Jerry Farrell Jr.
What happened to your juice? It seems to have
Juice off now. There's no juice.
Well, this week here in Wallingford, we are celebrating the 250th anniversary of George Washington visiting Wallingford in June of 1775. Now, George Washington is rightly considered to be the father of our country because of the many things that he did to give birth to the United States. I look upon Bob Parisi in very much the same way, as a father to our town of Wallingford. Like Washington, Bob has provided Wallingford with steady leadership in so many ways. Now, as was mentioned, Bob's first foray into public life was as the sidewalk inspector during the Bertini administration. Being sidewalk inspector in Wallingford is no easy job, with literally dozens of miles of sidewalk throughout the town and all kinds of conditions that uproot the sidewalks. I know my grandfather was one of the sidewalk contractors that Bob dealt with when he was the sidewalk inspector. And while we may have a linear trail here in Wallingford, sidewalks are everyone's linear trail. And Bob had to make sure that they were all fixed. Now, Bob also had a hand in national politics. When Larry DeNardis was the U.S. Congressman from the 3rd Congressional District, Bob was his in-district office manager. People forget some of these things in Bob's long history. Bob had to respond to the constituent complaints, not just of Wallingford, but of hundreds of thousands of constituents throughout the 3rd Congressional District. Now in 1982, seems like a long time ago, a universe far away, one said constituent, a 14-year-old child from Wallingford, told Bob that he wanted to go see President Reagan when he was speaking in Hartford. Now, Bob not only got me in the door, but he got us tickets for the 3rd row. It happened to be the Knights of Columbus having their national convention, and you know, Bob had said, I can't promise that these tickets are anything, you're going to be in the nosebleed seats. You know, we kept presenting the tickets to one usher after another. You know, at those Knights of Columbus conventions, who sits in the front row but the Roman Catholic cardinals, all in their red and scarlet? You know, they kept waving us forward. Bob got me seemingly promoted to the College of Cardinals because there I sat with all of the cardinals listening to President Reagan. I was closer to President Reagan that day than I am close to most of the people in this room tonight. Now, Bob's many years on the town council are what he's best known for. And during most of those years, but not all of them, the mayor was Bill Dickinson. Now, some would have said, back in I think it was 1983, who the heck ever heard of Bill Dickinson? This is 1983. Who was Bill Dickinson? Some unknown attorney. Worked for that Jerry Farrell Sr. guy on Center Street. So the nominee that year, perhaps, should have been Bob Parisi. But during Bill Dickinson's many years as mayor, no one had his back as much as did Bob Parisi, who never looked back and never wondered if he might have played his cards differently. But Wallingford benefited from Bob's leadership on the council. Bob was a steady, a polite, a caring chairman of the council. He helped to get things done, and that was in Wallingford's best interest. There even was a year when the Democrats on the council, they had 4 on the council, the Republicans had 5. They made a motion to nominate me as the chairman. But rather than voting for myself, and you know, I held that key vote that night, even I voted for Bob. So, such is history, Bob. Unbroken time as the council chairman. Beyond town government itself, so many groups in Wallingford have benefited from Bob's help. Holy Trinity Church, the Elks Club, the Girls Softball League, and the Wallingford Historic Preservation Trust. Bob has always offered his help, his advice, his time to all sorts of groups in Wallingford. Now, some of you may have heard the baby carriage story. It very much typifies who Bob is. I got a call in November, a couple years back, from a woman in Florida who wanted to donate an antique baby carriage to the Silver Museum. The baby carriage dated from the 1870s. The baby had been the child of a silver factory worker who lived on Lower Christian Street. It was the kind of artifact that you would love to have, since it helped to humanize that history of silver making in Wallingford. The problem was, the woman had no way of getting it here to Wallingford. After talking with her on the phone, I sent an email out to all of our members saying, if anyone's going to Florida for the winter, and you have room in your car on the way back, could you bring this thing back in the spring? That would be great. Not 3 minutes passed from that email going out that the phone rang. It was Bob Parisi. Jer, I'll go get the baby carriage. So strictly to go get this baby carriage, he's not down in Florida soaking up the sun himself. Bob and Joan drove 17 hours straight to Florida through floods and rainstorms, picked up the baby carriage, and drove 17 hours straight back to Wallingford. Who else would do that for you? I very sincerely say, who else would do that? So I neither toast nor roast Bob Parisi. Instead, I say he has been a father to our Wallingford, guiding us, helping us, taking care of us. So on behalf of a grateful community, thank you, Bob. I wasn't that funny. Maybe our next speaker will be even funnier. Our own judge of probate, Patrick Burney. Go.
All right, okay. I don't know if you heard this, but Bob is trying to get the nomination for mayor of Middletown. It's true. Ben Florsheim is resigning. He's resigning. And I said to Bob, why at 90 years old, do you want to be the mayor of Middletown? He said, what are you, stupid, for the restaurants? All right, you know what? You introduced him. He needs no introduction, so I'm going back to, no, Patrick Burney. I never got another second invite to the house, but that's okay. I love your wife. But go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, John. Bob, mine's going to be more toast than roast. And I'm certainly not going to be as funny or as delightful as John and Mr. Jerry Froh. Bob has been a towering figure in my life for almost as long as I can remember. Growing up on East Main Street here in Wallingford, just down the street from the Selmeckies, we all knew early on that Bob just wasn't Mrs. Selmecki's brother or Uncle Bobo to his nephews. And I see a couple of his nephews tonight. Jay, good to see you, and Scott and Peter. And we miss Fran tonight, and we hope she's doing okay. He was a commanding figure, a business owner, a driving force in local government, and a key player, as Jerry said, in shaping Wallingford's future. Jerry said that Bob worked for Larry DeNardis, but he also masterminded Larry Denardis' election to Congress back in 1980. Who knows? Just ask him. Bob will tell you. That was the last time a Republican held that seat. Bob always said if Larry spent more time with me in the district, he surely would have gotten elected in 1982. Fast forward to the early 2000s. Hard to believe, Bob, it's been 25 years. Paige, Ben, and I had just moved to Wallingford when Uncle Bobo, now the chairman of the Wallingford Town Council, approached me to be his campaign treasurer for the upcoming municipal election. The conversation went something like this. I'm Italian. You're Irish from a big family. What could go wrong? I eagerly said yes, unaware that I would be Bob's first new campaign treasurer since the enactment of modern campaign finance law. Laws at the time with real teeth and a commission responsible for their enforcement. Suddenly, my job was not just managing the campaign's finances, it was keeping Bob out of jail and myself from being disbarred. A couple of notes from the journal I kept from that first election. No, Mr. Chairman, the campaign can't pay for your first-class airfare to Spain to pick up that donation from your sister-in-law. No, Mr. Chairman, the restaurant hosting your fundraiser can't be paid with the proceeds from a 50-50 raffle, especially if we don't report the revenue or the expense. And dear Lord, Mr. Chairman, we absolutely cannot accept a cash contribution that exceeds the legal limit by a factor of 5 from your anonymous source. That's because there's one thing Bob has mastered in his 90 years. It's the art of adaptation. Bob has navigated monumental shifts in business, in politics, in society, with unwavering precision and a sharp ability to maneuver, notwithstanding his love of Wallingford restaurants. Like one of Bob's favorites, Tom Brady, Bob has always assessed the field, adjusted the strategy, and kept himself not just relevant, but engaged. And look around this room to support that proposition. He has also been an incredible influence on my life. Part right-leaning college professor, part SEC football coach. The professor side, unapologetically pragmatic, always shaping minds with conviction, sometimes stubborn, but always insightful. The SEC football coach, tough, relentless in preparation, constantly preaching strategy and discipline. Put them together and what do you get? A scholar of real-world leadership with passionate, informed decisions, but also a sideline strategist sparking out orders like Nick Saban. Execute the plan, adjust when needed, and always keep your eyes on the goal. Bob, you never, ever hesitated to deliver life advice to me. Patrick, you need to take a vacation. Patrick, you need to save for retirement. Patrick, you need to leave it all on the field, in court, in politics, in life. But beyond politics and leadership, Bob has been family. In 2002, Emily was born. And just days after she arrived, Bob and Joan dropped off a handmade pink blanket, a gesture that marked the beginning of their role as adopted grandparents of both Emily and Ben. From then on, they weren't just political mentors, they were lifelong friends. They became a steady presence, taking Ben and Emily to breakfast and dinner, remembering their holidays, and offering the same guidance and support that they had given to Paige and me. Off script, Bob, I always said to Ben and Emily before they left for lunch or breakfast with you and Joan, be careful what you say. He keeps really good notes. You know, all through it, Joan and Bob's first wife, Dolly, were remarkable forces behind the scene. Two amazing women who put up with a lot. And Joan, you continue to put up with a lot. Bob may have been the larger-than-life figure out front, but Joan and Dolly deserve their own standing ovations for their patience, their grace, their unwavering support. And when it comes to my political career, as short as it may be, I wouldn't be standing here today as Wallingford probate judge without Bob Parisi. Why? Because of three things that Bob has lived by and instilled in so many of us. Commitment to public service. Leadership isn't about titles, it's about action. Relentless work ethic. Success doesn't come from coasting, it comes from showing up, adapting, and doing the work. Finally, respect in the community. Bob and Bob's reputation opened doors for those like me who he believed in. Bob, for your 90 years of wisdom, leadership, and integrity, your legendary maneuvering, we toast you. May you continue to make many audibles in the years ahead.
Good job, Patrick. Jerry will pay your retainer later. You know, Patrick brought up a good point about Bob and children. And I'm sure he's touched some of your children as well. I remember Bob and Joan coming over Christmas Eve dressed up as Mr. and Mrs. Claus for Riley. And it was always a special night. You know, these people are about community. And by the way, just an update. Riley took the NCLEX today, and she's a registered nurse, and she's going to be working at Yale New Haven in the intensive care cardiac.
Wow.
And she says, I hope we don't see you. Okay?
If I go, I want to see her.
I know. All right, our next guest needs no introduction. He's been mayor for about, I don't know, how long have you been mayor?
30 seconds?
No. It's been a while. Look, this is a good friend of mine. Someone I respect, someone I love. We worked hard to get him elected. And we worked hard to get him elected for this wonderful town. Liz Verna's here, my dear partner. Where are you? Hi, love you. Thank you. Liz Verna and I worked very hard to get Mayor Vincent Cervoni elected. Why? Because we thought Wallingford needed to be saved. And Vinny was the right guy. So, let me introduce my friend, our mayor, Vincent Cervoni.
John, I hope you're not expecting any more calls. Phones.
Oh, shit. Sorry, Father.
Well, good evening, everyone. It is my honor to be part of this. I do feel privileged to be asked to speak about such a very important person to Wallingford's, I was going to say modern history, but really, it goes back much further than that. So I first met Bob Parisi in the late 1990s. In all of the unbelievable places, we were both in a variety talent show. In the good old days, when Sharon Sanders used to help raise money, she would organize and help put on this show. Right, Bob?
Yes.
So it was an opportunity for local Republican politicians to share their talent in an effort to help fill the Republican Town Committee's campaign coffers. I can't remember what I sang or played for the show. Similarly, I can't remember what Bob did in some skit, and perhaps it's better that we don't remember.
Yes.
Nonetheless, that was the first time I saw Bob willing to put himself out, perhaps via ham, for a cause in which he was intertwined and yet was bigger than Bob. Or was it?
That's close.
Yeah, it was close. As we became friendly, I got to know the Bob who somewhat gently encouraged my involvement in Wallingford government. He was always approachable, he was always encouraging, and that was when he wasn't giving stern advice. During my first council run was the first time when the first time I was running for council was a time when the whole group of Republican candidates would attend as many local events, soggy pasta or rubber chicken dinners as there were around town. Bob knew where and when all of them were going to happen and made sure that you had a ticket. In some instances, he even made sure you got there. So for one event, I was having car trouble. One of the two cars I had at the time turned out to be not a good backup while the other one was in the shop. Bob came and picked me up next to the immobile car to take me to the soggy pasta rubber chicken dinner. It wasn't catered by Xandry's. Don't worry. On the ride there, we engaged in conversation. It was mostly pleasant. At one point, he strongly encouraged me to consider trading my two cars for one that was actually reliable. But had I known him a little better at that point, I might have suggested that he let me drive one of the cars he had and wasn't driving, because I learned later that Bob usually had one or two extra cars that were quite nice. So I consider myself a reasonably punctual person, but I've got nothing on Bob. I can't think of a time when we were going to be at the same event where he hadn't arrived well before me. Mind you, he always had the best parking space, but he was never late. I guess you're not moving after this, are you, Bob? You're excused. So you've heard a little bit about Bob's involvement in Wallingford's town government and politics. So his appointments began sometime in the 1960s. We talked about the fact that under Mayor Bertini, Bob was Wallingford's first sidewalk inspector. So the word that I got was that Mayor Bertini told Bob to back off a bit. It's not even, arresting the hopscotchers. He was just keeping Public Works way too busy. After I was elected to the council, my time with Bob intensified. He appointed me co-chair of two committees, both benefiting from my legal experience. And even though I was co-chair, it didn't mean he had nothing to say about what we did. I mean, Bob has opinions. Does anyone here think Bob doesn't have opinions? I get the occasional phone call. Hey, Junior, we need to talk about something. In my second term, I became chairman to Parisi's vice chairman. I'm sorry, I was Parisi's vice chairman. If I'm not mistaken, that was Bob's 14th term as chairman. I think we can only determine how many terms Bob has served on the council by carbon dating the experience. So at this point, it bears noting when Bob's elected office career started as compared to the parallel universe, which is my life. I believe Wallingford first elected Bob to the town council in 1970. Does that sound right? Yeah. I was 2 years old. I moved to Wallingford when I was 26. By that time, Bob had been involved in Wallingford politics for 24 years, or as an elected official. 16 years later, I had won my first council seat when Bob was sitting on the council after having first been elected 40 years before. That age illustration helps make sense as to how Bob views our friendship. For example, in one of my first 2 terms, there was one August council meeting that I wasn't going to attend because my band was booked to play on the North Haven Green. So the conversation went something like this. Hi, Bob. I just want to let you know that I won't be making the August council meeting. Well, thanks for letting me know. Listen, Junior. Don't be making this a habit. You need to keep your priorities straight. Yup. Thanks, Bob. While I was vice chairman, I did feel like Bob had plans for me. Maybe he didn't consciously have plans for me. Maybe he wouldn't admit it now. Hindsight's perfect, right? And he started inviting me to attend his meetings with Mayor Dickinson to set the council agenda. Council agendas have lots of important items. Multi-million-dollar bonds, new and modified ordinances, decisions about buildings, review and approval of union contracts, job descriptions, budget amendments. Bob was interestingly detail-oriented. One of the items often on the consent agenda are refunds of overpayments from the tax department. In an early agenda meeting, I noticed that Bob looked closely at the list of refunds. And at times, that's a long list. I mean, they're not huge amounts of money, but lots of people. So I asked, what are you looking for in the tax refund list? I want to see if anyone I know is getting money back. If there is, I'm going to ask why I'm not getting money back. We all know how old Bob is, right? Yeah, that's why we're here, right? Something, you read something. So I have to say, well into his 80s, Bob continued to impress me. So I'll give an example. Bob prefers driving over flying for vacation travel. I remember when he still had his Corvette, he and Joan drove to Nova Scotia for a vacation. Packing into a Corvette is one thing for a week-long trip, but his was a convertible, so that's impressive, right? Then there was the time that he decided to drive cross-country for a vacation. I think he was driving out to Nevada or something, and that trip was not going to happen in the Corvette. There were several reasons for that. Bob is a planner. He knew there would be long stretches of highway west of Pennsylvania with little opportunity to stop for a biological emergency. So he chose to drive his Chevy Avalanche pickup truck for 2 reasons. First, he towed a trailer behind the truck. Planner, right?
Yes.
So this wasn't just any trailer. The trailer was a rolling restroom. But you may have seen that trailer around town during 1 or 2 of the past elections with a certain council candidate face on the side of it. So he, again, made good use of it. That's beyond planning, right? So the second reason that they drove the Avalanche is because he wasn't just bringing his wife Joan with him. He also brought along his first wife, Dolly. I find this amazing. I mean, some guys can barely handle one wife on vacation. Bob, I'm not sure which one of these things I've talked about so far makes you my hero. And I'm not sure I can just pick one. So I can remember when I called you to talk about running for mayor. And while you became supportive, and ultimately incredibly supportive, you did say, Junior, you know, I was supposed to run for mayor.
I didn't say that.
Nobody doubts me. In all seriousness, for half a minute, since we've become friends, Bob has always been a solid mentor and supporter. He's always there to set me straight when he thinks I've wavered. And I'm not sure when the last time it was, and I hope to get one soon, but I still get phone calls that start with, Hey, Junior. Bob, thank you for all of your support. So one of the things that I get to do as mayor of this town, somebody pointed it out Tuesday night at a council meeting, is I get to issue proclamations for all kinds of things. So I'm going to read some of this, but I'm not going to read all of it because we're starting to repeat ourselves here. Whereas Mr. Robert F. Parisi, the son of Rocco and Rose Parisi and brother to Francis Parisi Selmecki, has been an integral part of Wallingford since his birth at his grandmother's home on North Whittlesey Avenue. And whereas he attended local schools, including the North Main Street School, Lyman Hall High School, Cheshire Academy, he then went on to attend Leicester Junior College and Quinnipiac College. And whereas Mr. Parisi honorably served the United States Army, spending 15 months in Korea focused on sound ranging and counter-fire operations. And whereas Bob has dedicated his life to public service, starting as Wallingford's first appointed sidewalk inspector. You get a lot of traction out of that sidewalk. I only learned it this week. He later served as town councilor for 38 years, including 14 years as chairman. Additionally, he played a key role in U.S. Congressman Larry DeNardis' election and served as DeNardis' district ambassador. And whereas he has made a lasting impact on the community through his active participation in numerous civic organizations, including a list that is this whole paragraph. But I'll list some of them. Wallingford Center, Inc. Board of Directors, American Legion, Shaw Sign-On, Post number 73. Veterans of Foreign Wars, Post 531. Wallingford JC's as president. Wallingford Kiwanis, Rotary Club, Scout Board of Directors. Wallingford Republican Town Committee, and the East Wallingford Volunteer Fire Department. Notably, Bob has served under mayors William D. Bertini, Joseph Carini, Rocco J. Bambaco, and William W. Dickinson Jr., and unfortunately the list there ends there. I'll have to do something about that. Whereas Bob married Joan Ives in 1998 and now serves as an elder statesman. Maybe I can appoint you to that. I'm creating a position. Offering valuable insight and guidance to those in public life. And now, therefore, I, Vincent Cervoni, mayor of this town of Wallingford, do hereby proclaim Thursday, June 12th, as Robert F. Parisi Day in our community. We extend congratulations and best wishes to Bob as he celebrates this momentous day. Happy 90th birthday, Bob.
All right, thank you, Vinny. Bob, be careful, his appointments don't really last too long. He's got a sense of humor about it, don't worry. Look, Vinny talked a little bit about vehicles, and while up in Boston with the Parisis one year, I don't know who the hell sold him an Avalanche, because he could not drive that truck. We had gone up to Boston, and we were at a Red Sox game. It was what day was it up in Boston with the marathons? Patriots Day. Thank you, Joni. It was Patriots Day. So we were up there in the weekend, stayed at the Parker house. Bob was bitching about his, sorry, Father. Bob was complaining about his room. He opened the window and he saw a brick wall. No scenery in Boston, a brick wall. And I booked all the rooms. Of course, I'm sitting in the lap of luxury, you know, drinking wine and eating grapes. And Bob's down in his room. But we went to the Red Sox game on Patriot Day. And it's about 10:30 game for Red Sox fans, right? So we leave, and we get in the Avalanche. And watching Bob trying to maneuver out of that parking lot with thousands of people coming out, he was clobbering people with the rear view mirrors in the back of the head. And they were all giving him the, and swearing at him like I've never heard before. He's like, sorry, 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 sorry. He keeps hitting them though, bang, 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 bang. We finally got out of there alive, thank goodness. But Bob, that was a great trip, and I'll never forget it. Even when, and he set this up, that rascal, we go downstairs, there's a doorman Of course, at the Parker House. It's a high-end hotel. You're laughing now because you remember, don't you? We're all sitting there waiting for the vehicle. The doorman pulls it up. Not the doorman, but the valet pulls it up and he goes, "Here's your keys, Mr. Juice." And we died laughing. We died laughing. Bob's the only guy I know. We were in Faneuil Hall walking around. He's the only guy I know because years ago we did a cable television show. And thank God for Bob, because he was the first guy who stood up and said, I'll be on your show, Sullivan. Because every other politician didn't trust me to present the politicians at the time in a good light. But damned if he didn't step up to the plate and said, I'll be there. And he was. He came on the show, and my goal was to leave every guest on that show wanting to come back and feeling good about their appearance on the show. And after Bob Parisi appeared on that show, every other politician started coming down and saying, I'd like to be on your show too. And it was because of Bob. He trusted me, I trusted him, it went very well. Of course, every week he'd call me and say, are you going to be there? I'd like to host if you're not going to be there. He'd be outside 128 Center in a tuxedo. I'm ready to fill in, I'm ready to go. It's okay. I did give him his opportunity.
I did.
You did very well.
Thank you.
I was pleasantly pleased. I made sure I was out of the country, just in case. But Bob did a great job. All right, speaking of great jobs, Bob has been a mentor to many politicians. But one of the ones that I truly, truly took to heart was Lenny Fasano. I don't know a more honest guy in politics. He was a Republican. Bob started, whenever we had a WPAA camera, Bob showed up with Lenny. I said, Bob, how do I squeeze Lenny into something I'm doing at community pool? I don't know. Just get him on. And we did. And over the course of several years, Lenny came on our program. He was a great guest. He's got a big heart. And he always wants the best for Wallingford, the 34th district. Correct, Len? You did a tremendous job. I'm so proud of you. One time I had an issue. My son Ryan was a senior at Xavier. And he was top 10 in his class. And UConn said, Ryan, you got to go to West Hartford for 2 years. You can't go to the main campus. And as a dad, of course, you're going to try to take care of your son. So I called Lenny. Lenny called me back a couple days later. Said, John, could you hold off till January? I said, yeah. And he's in at main campus. Don't worry about it. I took care of it. So, that's why Lenny Fasano is right here with me. So up next, the guy who really needs no introduction. He did a great job representing Wallingford in the state senate. I wish he ran for governor. I think he was well qualified. Because I think he made a great governor. Please welcome state senator and just all-around good guy, Len Fasano.
John, thank you for those kind words, but I was only on your show once. You never invited me back. That's just for the record. So, just let you know. You know, it is, before I begin, Bob, it is great to be here in Wallingford. I haven't been here in a number of years, and seeing all the familiar faces and remembering all the different interactions we have, I got to tell you, I seriously miss Wallingford, and I make my mission to get a little more involved in the town, because I love it so much. The community is just a great community. It's great to see everybody. So the question is this a toast or a roast? It's a troast, which means if you laugh, it's a roast at my jokes. If you don't laugh, it's a toast. So that's what we're going to play, all right? So it's up to you guys on which way you want to go. You know, I really got to know Bob. I don't think I ever met a more genuine person, sensitive person, caring person, understanding person, and a thoughtful person. I'm talking about Joan, of course. It wasn't really Bob at all. But, you know, and what was said is that, you know, Joan had a lot of patience, and she does. And Joan really should be a saint. I mean, she didn't kick Bob out of the house ever. That's a miracle, so that's the first thing going for her. That beats walking on water any day of the week, I gotta tell you. So, Bob, when I first met Bob for the very first time, I was running for state senate. Now, I had never been involved in a statewide campaign. I didn't know anything about it, and I went to the convention. What happens, you go to the convention, you have delegates, and the delegates vote for you. I didn't know that happened. I just showed up with some folks who supported me. And I remember being in a hallway in North Haven. And I was standing in the hallway, really nervous, pacing back and forth in the hallway, and the doors open, and Bob Parisi walks in. I really didn't even know who he was. But I knew he was important because there's this entourage behind him, all walking up. And I'm standing in the hallway, he's coming towards me. I was really nervous, I knew he was important. And Bob, I will never forget the words you told me. You walked right up to me in the middle of the hallway, looked me dead in the eye and said, "Kid, get out of the way." And I One time Bob and I were having breakfast, and I was telling him, I don't know what we're gonna do. We have a lot of repeat offenders in Connecticut, and we're looking for a criminal justice bill. What do you think we do? And he said, just don't re-elect them. And I thought that was pretty good sound advice at the time. And, one time, first of all, I just realized that Junior apparently is a word, the mayor, he always called me Junior. I thought it was my word. I'm a little disappointed. I thought I owned it. So one time we're at breakfast, and we got pretty good press on the budget we were doing. It was all over the news. There seemed to be a lot of support. Democrats were a little nervous with this state budget that we were putting through. And I happened to meet Bob the next day, and I said, Bob, this budget, the press conference yesterday, catch it? He goes, yeah, Junior, you did really, really well. And I got really happy, and I said, thank you. I appreciate that. I said, I'm really excited because, Junior, don't let the press clippings go to your head. So that just deflated my balloon right over there. I did enjoy it for about 3.5 seconds, and then it was all over. When Bob and I would meet, I would practice what I was going to say the night before, the morning of, all the way in the car till I got to Dad's. That's where we met, right? I would say, I am going to say this, and I know he'll say this, and I'll say that because I want to do this, and how am I going to convince him to be on my side? Because I had to kiss the ring and clear the ranks with Bob before he did it. So I said, this is it. This is what I'm going to go. And I get to the meeting, and I'd say, Bob, this is what I'm thinking. And I tell him my philosophy. I give him my rationale. I tell him the support. I think I'm gold. And he'd be eating and drinking his coffee, and he'd stop, and he'd say, Junior, let me tell you what I would do. And it was nothing I had planned. And then he would say to me, but that's what I would do. You do what you want to do. Subtitle, you better do what I tell you to do. And then the clincher, but that's what you do all the time anyway. So that was the end of the story. So I would scrap those plans. But I had always cleared from them. So that's about all of the funniness you're going to get out of me tonight.
Enough.
I want to just... There are many accolades, Bob, that can go your way, and everybody's covered on you. Veteran, councilman, pillar in the community. You've helped local elections, state elections, federal elections. You volunteer for all these organizations like the ELTS and the food not-for-profit organization. Your impact on Wallingford will be remembered for a very long time. Not just because the council's named after you, it's going to help, but your impact on Wallingford will be remembered for a very long time. And for me, on a personal note, 23 years ago, you made this kid's dream come true. To be able to serve in the state is something I always thought I wanted to do. And with you and your guidance, your wisdom, the passion you showed me for politics fueled my enthusiasm. The advice you gave me over the 18 years kept me going. And has served me well, not only in politics, but in business and in family. And my family calls him Uncle Bob. My kids, my wife, Jill, we call him Uncle Bob. And there's a saying in politics, People are gonna forget what you said, and people, most, will forget how you voted. But they're never gonna forget the way you made them feel. And looking at this room, Bob, you are the paramount politician. Happy birthday and congratulations. Well done, Len. All right, where are we? All right. Our next speaker, distinguished gentleman, someone I truly admire. Perhaps you could, as a writer, which you are, counselor, writer for the Record Journal for many years, great opinion pieces, worked hard, very hard, using that skill on Mayor Cervone's campaign. And perhaps someone that could teach me how to place a comma or a period. And save me for the next job. Anyway, Steve Knight has been around long. Wait, no, sit down. Sit down, sit down, sit down, sit down. Steve Knight's been a counselor for a number of years in the town of Wallingford. He had an incredible feel for government, well-spoken, well-written, and his arguments with Mike Brodinski were incredible over the years. I think if you watched any of those town council meetings from the 1980s, 1990s, Steve and Mike were always at it. Two intellectuals sharing opposite opinions, but they were terrific together on the council. Please welcome my friend, Steve Knight.
Oh my God, with an introduction like that, I think about my father, and if he ever heard somebody describe me as distinguished, he's up there laughing now. There has been a lot of very, very polished speaking tonight. This one is not going to be so polished. Bob Parisi taught me very early, get up, say what you want to say, and get out. And in honor of Bob this evening, I'm going to be keeping it short. There's so many good things have been said about Bob, and all of them true. He's a remarkable human being, and I just refer to him, and I think it's very fitting, I refer to him as Mr. Wallingford. Kathy and I, my wife Kathy and I have lived here since 1986, and we were 3 weeks into our arrival, and we had already fallen in love with this town. And he epitomizes why people love this town. I mean, he grew up here, and I kind of wish I had as well. You get into conversations. Like I say, I've only been here for 40 years. And you get into conversations with people, and Bob goes back and back and back into his Lyman Hall days and all the people he knows and all the organizations he's been in. Oh my gosh, it's mind-boggling. He really is, he is Mr. Wallingford. It's just that simple. You can't say otherwise. He is such a force to be reckoned with, and such a fine human being. Now, there are a couple of things I did write out here. One of the things that I noticed that we all waited until he was 90 years old before we decided we were going to give him a roast. I don't think, as a matter of fact, I'm a little nervous still standing up here. I think I'm skating on thin ice. Just, like Jerry Farrell, he kept it straight. Because he didn't want to get in trouble. Very smart, Jerry. I don't know that I'm going to be there with all that. As I was mentioned, I was on the town council for 14 years. I loved it. But what I loved more than anything was campaigning with Bob Parisi. And I'll tell you, when we started...
You're not going to take your clothes off, are you?
This is for Bob.
Oh, God.
We called each other the R team.
All right.
Pull it down, pull it down.
Yeah, I'm not real proud of it either. But yeah, this was the R team. It was the most fun I could ever possibly have in politics is campaigning with Bob Parisi. And we did, and I've forgotten who mentioned it, but I think maybe Vinny. And you went everywhere. Everywhere there. I think there wasn't an event we missed. We were out 2 or 3 nights a week, and yeah, Bob's cracking the whip. Yeah, it was Vinny. And we had to wear our team, but it was brilliant. It was brilliant local politics. It was so much fun, and we did have a good time. We did a ton of door-to-door, which I still think is one of the most valuable things anybody that wants to be in public office should do. You've got to get out there and meet people, learn the geography of your community and so forth. It does occur to me, though, that Bob would organize it, and he would drive. And he would drop us all off at the beginning of a long street. And he would drive down to the other end and pick us up. We walked, he drove. I was doing this today and it just occurred to me. What the son of a gun? I'll tell you, it was fun. It was fun. We had a great time. I do have a couple of other observations, and people have made mention of this already. Now, Lenny did this just a few minutes ago, and it was perfect. A perfect example. Now, when you're working with Bob Parisi on anything, but let's just say it's a campaign, you have lots of conversation, and you've got lots of ideas, and you throw out your ideas, and he throws out his ideas, and we talk about it, and it would come down, now there are some ideas to consider. You're all fired up because you've got an idea, and it's going to be dynamite. So you bat the ideas back and forth until Bob Parisi says, well, if you think this is the way to go, then fine. I don't really care. If you've ever worked with this man for any length of time, you've heard this, and you know better. You know better. If you know him at all, you know the signal. Bob Parisi does care. And it's time for you to realize that. Here's one other observation I have that has perplexed me to this day. Now, it's been made mention of that Bob was first married to Dolly Parisi, God rest her soul. Then he married Joan. Now, in 99.9% of the situations like that, the ex-wife and the present wife, sir, you keep them separated. They want to be separated. But this guy, as was mentioned, travels the country with the daughter. My theory is this. The reason Joan and Dolly got along so well is that Dolly said to Joan, "Thank you, Joan." He's all yours. Now you can take care of him. I'll just enjoy the company and head home every night to peace and quiet. So, well, like any of us in this room, I could go on and on. Bob Parisi, as I said in the beginning, is Mr. Wallingford. We know how much he loves this town, and we all love him. I personally know that he has gently manipulated me for the entire time I've known him. He is so darn good at it that you know it's happening while he's doing it. And you don't care. Because that's the way he rolls. And it's fun to see a master politician at work. My life, and probably the life of every single person in this room, is way richer, way more fulfilled, and happier because Bob Parisi has been part of it. We all love you, Bob. Happy birthday.
Geez, I thought he was going to suck. That was great. That was really great. You know, all this time I thought the R team was a basketball team. Because they did spring out. And I understand Bob hooked up a game against the Globetrotters, but it just was never going to come about. Anyway, a couple of speakers left. You know, Bob's had a lot of friends over the years, and I'd like to thank everybody that's here tonight, even those that left early. Our friends of Bob.
Family.
Family. Are you doing this? Am I doing this? You know, we're up in Boston, Bob whips a pen out of his pocket and starts interviewing people. He wanted so bad to be on TV. And the dopes in Boston are going along with it. They're interviewing, they think, where's the camera? They're looking, oh, where's the camera? Bob's actually interviewing with a pen. You know, there was one time at Celebrate Wallingford, we were up here, and we had the TV cameras with us, and Bob did his little Jackie Gleason dance. You remember that?
Yeah.
That was the most hilarious thing I've ever seen. So what we did was, we took any serious event, Mayor Dickinson speaking at the Flag Day ceremony, and we superimposed Bob walking across the screen doing his little dance. We were laughing our asses off. And you know, people told Bob, hey, you know, you see what Sullivan's doing with that? And he said, it's hilarious. This guy has a great sense of humor, I'll tell you. He really does. If those of you who don't know Bob to that level, he's one of the funniest guys. Well, now Steve Knight is.
Right.
But Bob is one of the funniest guys you'll ever meet. I mean, he's a sweetheart of a guy, and he's he's got that professional side where he's got to be council chair and serious. But my God, you give him a microphone and put a camera in front of him outside of that council chamber, he is one of the funniest guys you'll ever meet. And I mean that seriously. Okay, speaking of good friends, where's Ellen?
Right here.
Ellen, hey, come on up. Ellen Casey's here to talk about Bob.
Thank you very much. I'm going to be going in a little bit of a different direction, a little more heartfelt.
I'm sure.
Try not to get too choked up, but good evening, everyone. We're here to celebrate this incredible milestone, 90 years of Bob. And for many of us here, Bob's been more than a friend, he's been a constant. Bob and Dolly and Joan have always been part of our lives from the time I was born. For my family, the Sprafkes and Casey's, so my father's Bob Sprafke and my mother's Betty, and of course they're gone from us now, but we weren't just friends, you were woven into the fabric of our everyday moments. And it's hard to remember a time when you weren't around. There wasn't a time. Some of my earliest memories are of Center Street, the shoe store. And it was clean and shoe, clean and shoe. And that's what they called each other. And you couldn't get over this friendship that they had. It was never just Bob, and there was always Howie Marshall, Paul McNally, Al Kovacs, probably many people in this room were part of that social event. Probably went from breakfast to the shoe store for a cup of coffee and then to lunch, but that's what Bob did back in the day as well as still now. And people would pop in like it was town hall. I think you met through the JCs was the story that I heard, and other Wallingford institutions, you know. I should have checked with you for more of the history, but you know. But lifelong bonds were formed, and that kind of friendship, steady, is rare and special. My father loved being in the mix with all the politics of the town and the state, but from a distance. One of my favorite traditions was the Labor Day parties on Northford Road. I remember them as a child, and then later we brought our kids. They were simple, joyful celebrations filled with the kind of memories that root deep in our hearts. I'll never forget the year Kim Odell was looking to rehome a yellow lab puppy.
Yeah.
We went home that day with our 2 toddlers and a puppy. That dog ended up with 2 more kids in the house very soon to contend with, the poor thing. And, you know, we really didn't serve that dog great, but we're now making it up to our 2 golden doodles, who are our empty nest dogs. Bob raised German Shepherds over the years, and I asked him, when I had these golden doodle puppies, how did you train those dogs? And he thought about it, and he was going to tell me, and he said, you know what, I don't think it's legal. So that was that for the German Shepherds. Bob, I mean, my husband didn't want me to tell this story. It doesn't sound funny, but I don't know if you remember, but you gave me one of my first jobs. I think I was 14, and working for Clean Right and cleaning the restaurants on Center Street, and that didn't end so gracefully for me, but you never made me feel less than, and that kindness at 14 and the grace meant more to me than you probably know. Vinny stole one of my other jokes, but I'll go forward. But, you know, we know that Bob loves traveling and boating, and he liked to talk about the trips to Lake Winnipesaukee. I think that was before I was born. The whole crew would go out, and they would go out on the boat, but my mother would stay back and read in peace and quiet. Maybe her 4 kids were home, I don't know. It was just one of those quiet little moments that says everything about the people we love and how they fill our lives. Spain, Italy, Nova Scotia, New Hampshire, and a cruise to Bermuda. That was big for my parents, as it was the only time they left New England, I think. They were Cape Cod people, and they didn't do a lot of traveling, but you did get them to join that cruise to Bermuda, and they did have a great time. And of course, the trip to that Bob and Joan and Dolly took, I think it was Oklahoma. Am I right, Bob?
Arizona.
Oh, it was Arizona.
Arizona.
Oh, okay. So you all know what happened there. It was a genius move with the porta potty along the way. But as long as I've known my father, you've always been there, Bob. You've been a part of our dinners, our holidays, our theater nights at the Goodspeed. We had season tickets for years and years and went to so many shows, and the dinners after those shows were just as memorable as the performances themselves. With your familiar face lighting up the table, sharing stories, somehow always knowing someone at the restaurant. Usually got us free cannolis or limoncello or something at the end. So you've been present, truly present for so many seasons of life, for so many people here. You've shown us what friendship looks like when it's built on loyalty, humor, generosity, and real heart. Bob, we celebrate you today not just for the 90 years you've lived, but for the life you've poured into others. You've left a legacy that lives in the stories we tell, the laughter we share, and the gratitude we all feel for having you in our lives. With love and deep appreciation from the Spratkes.
Thank you, Ellen. That was very nice. You know, one thing about Bob is you meet his friends, they become like family to you as well. And many of those friends are no longer with us, like Joe Jupin, Vinny, Butch, great people. It's hard to remain here and see your friends pass that you've shared so many memories with over the years. Up next is a woman who grew up in this town, and many of you visited her grandparents' bakery. How many remember Catapano's down on North County Street? Remember? A nice hot bread. You go in there, Mrs. Catapano, flour all over the floor, 90 cents a loaf. Couldn't beat it. I used to go down for a loaf of bread. I came back with half a loaf because I ate the other half in the car. It was so hot and delicious. A wonderful family. Please welcome Sherry Catapano Pettit.
Hi everyone, can you hear me? I'll be very brief. I just wanted to say a few words about Bobby. And as far as the bakery, I probably saw you all when I was a child at the cash register and with the penny candy. So Bobby was best friends with my father, Arthur, or known to many as Bucky Catapano. They went to Lyman Hall High School together and continued their friendship throughout their lives. After my father had an unfortunate car accident leaving him paralyzed, Bobby was at his bedside while he was hospitalized. And after I took my dad to my home to take care of him, Bobby was at his side every single week without fail to visit. It was like a party with the stories and the laughs that were shared during every visit between Bobby and my dad. My dad eventually passed away from complications 15 months later, but Bob was always there to help any way he could, and he always brought life, laughter, and love with him. So I'll just share a couple of stories. My mom is Florence Catapano, who was previously Florence Gigante before she married my father. And she was best friends with Fran, Bobby's sister. They also went to Lyman Hall High School together, and when Fran and my mother were either on the phone or in Fran's bedroom talking about boys, the story goes that Bobby was under the bed listening. He told me this story. So the story goes that he was under the bed listening to them talk about boys. And I was going to ask Fran tonight, I'm sorry that that she's not here tonight because I know she's not feeling well, but I didn't know if she could confirm this or if she was unaware of this until. Another brief story. Many of you probably heard recently at the Wallingford Senior Center honoring Iris Papali. I just learned of this story from my cousin last week, which describes how Bobby will always be there to help any way he can. So I knew that my father and Iris Papali were an item when they went to Lyman Hall High School. And eventually my father met my mother and Iris met Mario Papali. Mario was Italian and Iris was Jewish, and back then Iris's parents would not approve for her to go out on a date with Mario because he was Italian and not Jewish. So Bobby would pick up Iris at her house in his car as if he was taking her on a date, and then would meet Mario, and then she would meet Mario. Afterwards, Bobby would bring Iris home, dropping her off with his car, so her parents could think that she was on a date with Bobby. So I knew the story, how Iris and Mario both eventually eloped, but just heard this piece of the story with Bobby's involvement, which shows how Bobby will go above and beyond to help his friends. So I just want to say thank you, Bobby, for everything you do and how grateful I am for you. Happy 90th birthday, and countless people have benefited from your help, your laughter, and your love. So.
Well done, Sherry. Thank you so much for sharing those stories. All right, our last speaker. No, sit down. Sit down. I got a couple things. Oh no, you brought an instrument. Oh God. I guess it could be worse. He could have brought that damn trumpet with him. I gotta tell you something. When I was first elected, the Democrats really despised this guy. And I was always open-minded. And I never understood why. Yes, we didn't agree all the time. This guy's a gentleman. He's a gentleman. And he's got a huge heart. And you know, when I ran as an unaffiliated my final election year, it was Bill Dickinson who commented at Republican headquarters how much he was going to miss me. And I feel the same way about you. Are you paying attention? What are you doing in the back? You're looking for a pick, aren't you? You can't find a pick, can you? But even over the years, you know, I'd stop up to see him in his office. He's got a wonderful sense of humor. This guy is nothing like you see at council meetings, where he really is all business. And he knew his stuff. And I just love you for your sense of humor and for welcoming me into your office. And I never left without a good Bill Dickinson story. Of course, it was way the hell out there. I never bought into it. Some about aliens, lasers, all that stuff. But I nodded my head and said, yeah, I agree, Mayor. Yeah, that could have happened. But anyway, he's my friend. I love him. He was an incredible mayor during his, 40 years, right? 40 years. Bill Dickinson.
I've got to get a little organized here. I want to start by saying, though, clearly we have a true legend in Wallingford. There you go. Yes. There he is. Now, it just occurred to me, as I try to get organized here.
Need some help?
I always need help. Now, it just occurred to me in some random thoughts that, you know, there are songs for all kinds of things. And we've got songs for counting. Ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. We've got songs for songs for dancing. Put your right hand in, put your right hand out. We've got songs about animals. The bear went over the mountain, the bear went over the mountain.
We get it.
But what about songs about legends? So with the inspiration of El King, I have something that hopefully approximates a song for a legend. We know a man whose heart is for this town. Doing good for others is house black as mine. Whoa! Oh, gee, I better start again here.
Okay, you're doing fine. You're doing fine.
I may have thrown this out of key. All right. We know a man who's heart is for this town. Doing good for others is house black as wine. Whoa! So the story goes. Bob inspected sidewalk business for safety beat. Did such a fine job, he earned a console seat. Hey, hey, want it going away. 1, 2, 3, he's the man to see, 'cause he's the best baby that you're ever gonna meet. Oh, 1, 2, 3, he's a legend to see. The people came to visit and they never wanna leave. X's and O's, we love him. Like O's, we haunt him. To make him smile, we can't let go. X's and O's. An artist went to Washington to be our congressman. He needed district leadership, Parisi was the man. Well, they rang the Liberty Bell. Lozano came a calling, wants to be a senator. Parisi said, now Junior, work like a stevedore. Yes, yes. Election night's excess. 1, 2, 3, he's the man to see, 'cause he's the best baby that you're ever gonna meet. Now, 1, 2, 3, he's a legend to see. The people come to visit and they never wanna leave. X's and O's, we love him. Like O's, we haunt him. To make him smile, we won't let go. X's and O's. Parisi was a councilman for 37 years. Kept their town moving like a Roman charioteer. Whoa! Even Ben-Hur knows. Let's sing happy birthday to Bob, our favorite guy. 90 years young, still the apple of our eye. Amen. We're proud to call him friend. Now 1, 2, 3, he's the man to see. They're climbing over mountains and sailing overseas. Oh, 1, 2, 3, he's a legend to see. The people come to visit and they never want to leave. X's and O's, we love him. Like O's, we haunt him. Like to make him smile. It's birthday time. I'm so fine. It's Bob's time to shine. And there was one other song. It was patriotic song. She's a grand old flag.
Yeah. So you can find Dylan Muldoon. Every Sunday night. And try the buffet before you leave, will you please? I love that guy. He's awesome. You know, I want to say something about my friend, Jerry Farrell Jr. here. You know, this was a night to honor Bob, of course, but it's also an opportunity to raise funds for the Wallingford Historic Preservation and Trust, of which Jerry is president, working extremely hard, putting in long hours, along with Kay Flynn. I love you, Kay. To make sure that our history is never forgotten. And they do an incredible job. And I told you earlier, this guy does things for people you'll never hear about. They know, you don't. And that's the way he is. Generous to a fault, takes care of people, loyal to people, helps people in need. That's Jerry Farrell Jr. Okay? Let's give him a round of applause. And he's got a wonderful family. We got Dad. I love Dad. Sisters are out there. I think they are. There they are. So Jerry is going to now present a gift. And please, my dear friend Jerry Farrell.
Just a couple of thank yous tonight, and then we need Bob to speak thereafter. Certainly, we couldn't have brought this together without Joan's assistance. We're so sorry that Fran is not here this evening, but she's convalescing. Tom Kaneshi from Government TV. The ever faithful Kay Flynn, who she put this together, not me. Julie Good and the crew from the Wallingford Elks Club, all the things that you've done for the Elks, they know it. We do have the gift to you, Bob. Several people said, well, is there going to be a gift to Bob? And so it's a little different, but knowing how much you love that Silver Museum, that you would go to Florida to get a baby carriage. We went to Wallingford Lamp and Shade, you know, Johnny Lampshade, and we purchased a historic lamp that's going to shine on your baby carriage. So it's in the back. Rich G, maybe you could lift it up for us. It's right behind you. Carefully. Or just point at it. The wonderful silver lamp. So when you go to the Silver Museum, Bob's light will continue to shine. So, you know, many friends have come from afar. I would like to recognize the one who has come the furthest, that during your tenure on the council, you went out of your way to have a great relationship with Cho Rosemary Hall, and you and Ed Shanahan became the best of friends. He's here from Asia. He just got on a plane to get home this evening, so. But a couple words from you, Bob. Would you like me to bring the microphone over?
Thanks. First off, I'm not going to make a long speech, so don't get nervous. My butt is sore too. I do want to thank Jerry and my good friend John Sullivan. Wouldn't be the same without them. And Rosemary DeAngelis, our cohort here at the Elks on every Friday night. Monsignor Gary Simeone, Father, so nice to have you here as always. And the people May McDonald, that young lady's probably went home, she looked kind of young and has to get her rest. But she did a beautiful job singing the national anthem. And Colin Bernard, who brought the Marines, wasn't necessary, you could have brought the Army, but I'll accept the Marines anyway. And thank you, Colin, you're a valued friend. I'm not going to get on the name. I could really murder some of these speakers. But I think I'm just starting to get used to the idea that this is my party. Because my wife did such a thorough job of telling me I was going to Mary Ellen Skorzinski's Christmas birthday party tonight. And then Mary Ellen Good?
Julie.
Julie. And then Julie calls up today and says, we have a parking space. I said, boy, the Elks are really going out tonight for me. Isn't that funny? So I said, I'm after her all day. Let's get going. We got to be there on time. So we got here, and poor Stanley, her husband, has got 2 spaces saved, and I said I only need 1 stand, and I took it, and I came in and taken my picture, and well, I was shocked. To say the least, I'm still in shock because if I can't think of something to say, somebody's got me. And this is the first time in 90 years anybody got me on a birthday. So, hats off to you. And to Jerry Farrell, we go back a long way. We've had our ups and downs, but we always managed to come together. And I value him as a friend, and I certainly thank you. Thank you, Jerry, for you've always had me in your mind, and it's much appreciated. And I'm thinking of Junior. You're sitting behind me, Junior. That's Lenny Fasano was the original Junior. And he used to parade around at the meetings with a walking stick, and everyone had to kind of kiss the ring. Well, I didn't kiss the ring, and I never met the one I would kiss. Except maybe my wedding band, but that's out of necessity. But we could go back for many days, many good days with Lenny Fasano. And of course, a guy that's always in the background, but we used to run some real big fundraisers down at the Stillwood Inn with our good friend Jimmy Sandry.
Yeah.
I remember one year where Lenny, I don't know what was wrong with him, but somebody turned his head, we're gonna have spaghetti and this, and we're gonna make a lot more money. I said, Lenny, we're Italian. You gotta have some meat or something. Well, I don't want to spend the money. Well, you weren't raising it. What the hell are you worrying about? But I went down and saw Jimmy. I said, Jim, we gotta get some chicken bits or something alongside of this eating. Don't worry about taking it. And Jim, it can't feed too much, you know. No problem, I'll take care of it. So that night, we had a banner night of attendance. I don't know, we had several of them, so it's hard to single one out. But we really loaded the place up. And Lenny says to me, where'd the chicken come from? I said, just keep shaking hands. For Christ's sake, don't worry about the damn chicken. I never did tell him, but that's where it came from. And I used to call him Junior to get his attention because he liked to talk. He did. He was a natural politician, always had something to say. And the only way I could cut him off was when I gave him a Junior. He'd shut up right away, and I said, okay, this is what we'll do from now on. But I do have to say that I never had so much pleasure working with a candidate, a person who, if you told him to do something, he did it, didn't ask why, or I don't want to, or I just don't feel like it. I remember I took him down to Abbott and Costello's for breakfast. And I said to him, you're going in there, you're going to shake hands with everybody in the restaurant. It was loaded. And if they're eating and they look like they want to eat, just say, hi, I'm Lenny Pisano, and keep going. So I'm watching in the window, I to see what he did. By Jesus, he went to every table in that restaurant.
I didn't have a choice.
Well, you did. You got elected, didn't you? That was your choice. Patrick Burney is like family. The kids and his wife Paige. If I got an acre pain, I call her up, and she makes it go away. She's so nice. I don't know, such a nice person.
What did the kids say when you asked them if they made breakfast for?
What they told me, I don't.
She said, it doesn't make breakfast.
Oh, and I was shocked. Here's my little idol, and I'm okay. Forget it. Sorry. Steve Knight, who I have always had the deepest respect for, not only as a person, but on his ability, he could always take my words, as ugly as they were, and he made them sound so nice that I used to go out of my way to have him write stuff for me. Even if I was staying home, I'd tell him to write something and I'd read it. I just felt like I was a real academic. But, and he was a great vice chairman. Remember, I was in Spain and we're talking back and forth. Yes. You think we were running the United States right now? The phone's ringing and God, this is going. How's the vote going? Well, I think we got it. Okay. Jesus, God, I think back now we were so serious. Very, very serious. Ellen Casey, my little sweetheart, she is, of course, the daughter of Bob Sprapke, and that was my satellite headquarters for all my campaigns, was Sprapke's shoe store. And she's just a love, and her husband Mike, two very, very good friends, and just dear people that will always be dear to me. Mayor Dickinson, what do you say about Mayor Dickinson? I like to have these parties just so we'll make these songs up for him. The only problem is, Scott, I wish you'd put him on tape so I could take him home and play him, you know? And here's another great guy too, Scott Amori, who does a great.
Where is he?
Tom. I'm 90 years old. Tom Ganesh. Yeah, Scott's the skinny kid, right? Yeah. I like you better. But anyway, yeah, Tom was always good. He'd always take my good side with the camera, if I had one.
You told me to look for it. I told you I could never find it.
Well, whatever you did, I kept getting elected, so it was working. That was all right. Any Mayor Dickinson, I think I've covered, and like...
Vinny.
Oh, well, the mayor, I did say something about him. I can't talk about him all night. He's not the star of the show. Oh, my good friend, Mayor Staboni.
Junior.
I like Vinny. Vinny was my, one of my vice presidents, vice chairman. Yeah, always playing the guitar and screwing around. But he's gotten very serious now that he's the mayor, and I'm very proud of him, proud to know him, proud that he'd listen to me once in a while, and I think he does a great job for Wallingford, and I think the next term he should get elected, and I think he'll continue to do. He works quietly. That's the only thing wrong with him. He's not really a politician that'll brag about himself, you know. And I keep telling him, you gotta, you know, shoot it in there once in a while what you're doing to let the people know, right, John?
Right, Bob.
Oh, I thought you were falling asleep. All right, I just want to thank everybody that came. And Ed Shanahan, I do have to acknowledge you because I think we set milestones for town and gown relationships.
Yeah.
The town never had a relationship with Cholt like we did with you. And we sure had a hell of a lot of fun doing it, didn't we? We sure did. Yeah. And you were always good for a donation too. But anyway, I want to thank all of you, family included, in this. Your family almost have to come, but you do come, and I'll give you thanks for that. And all my friends, I can say that. Most of the people that are here are people I would like to have seen. And I didn't get to see Joe Russick sitting back there yet, but I want you to know I saw you and I know you're here. Okay, so everyone, thank you very much, and please be careful driving.